so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life? Well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to take about a minute and a half to tell you about a few sponsors that not only help to make it possible to produce this show 5 days a week, but that I'm also genuinely passionate about promoting. The first longtime stellar supporter of the show that I want to mention is Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online with over 8,000 video titles. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. The second sponsor I'm sincerely passionate about promoting is Purium. It's no mystery that bringing your mind, body, and spirit into balance is necessary if a person truly intends to manifest the greatest and grandest version of themselves. So if you've been looking for a way to easily get organic superfoods into your system every day with a simple plan that can help you reestablish a healthier foundation and relationship with food, like I was doing before I found Purium, I highly recommend going to positivehead.com/transformation and checking out the videos and interviews there where I dive deeply into discussions explaining why I take these products every day. And should you ultimately end up on iShopPurium.com to purchase any of their 50 plus amazing superfood products, be sure to use the code POSITIVEHEAD, all one word, for a 25% discount. All right, all you positive heads, on this week's Soul Share episode, I'm very excited to have my dear friend Giselle Koy back here with me on the show. Giselle is an intuitive counselor, a transformational coach. She was actually originally on the show about a year and a half ago, on episode 601. If you want to go, check that out in the archives. And she's since been a very busy bee diving into the divine topic of spiritual epigenetics, and I'm excited to have her back on today to explore this cutting-edge topic for today's episode. Giselle, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you so much, Brandon. It's great to be here.
Yeah, the great little synchronicity is last night I have a dear friend, newer in my life, newer to a lot of this sort of stuff, right? This whole world, whatever you want to refer to it as, understanding the ultimate nature of reality, as I call it. And he just went through a big health scare, and it really shook him. And I started talking to him about epigenetics and shared with him Dr. Bruce Lipton's Biology of Belief. There's a YouTube about hour video that sort of summarizes, Biology of Belief, the book. I'm sure you're familiar with it. And so it's funny, just late last night, literally, I was talking about epigenetics and sharing that. And here we are this morning going even deeper down the rabbit hole with epigenetics. And so, very synchronistically timed and aligned.
Love that. I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about epigenetics. It's kind of the new thing. It's kind of where spirituality is starting to cross over. So I'm thrilled to be talking about it.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to talk to you about it. And you had a great suggestion of how to start off this episode. You wanna expound on that?
So now that we know how much our environment and our instantaneous now affects our genetics, it's always good to just clean our field. So let's start with all of us. Let's just dial ourselves in a little bit. We're going to take 30 seconds. You're probably exercising or doing something else while you're listening to this podcast. So just notice all the screens that are open in your brain right now and that are happening as you're multitasking and multi-dimensions, and just begin to close them out and just dial in to the sound of my voice and Brandon's voice and become really present as you just notice your breath slowing down slightly to receive more and to receive the gift of Brandon's beautiful podcast and what we have to offer today. And we're just going to set an intention for everyone listening to receive an activation, a great aha moment idea, some kind of highest outcome that makes this listening worthwhile, because that's what we're bringing to you today. Something from the higher streams to help your life and help you go to your next level. So just continue to breathe and be present and enjoy the show.
Yeah, that's a great setting of the stage. And, you know, to sort of elaborate on that, Giselle, and I know some listeners probably, you know, remember you from episode 601. I was talking to someone the other day and they were like, I'd missed an episode, and I was like, yeah, sorry, I have so much going on with the preparation for, you know, the new show Optimistic, and I actually, you know, missed recording one day. And someone wrote in the Positive Heads Facebook group, like, oh my gosh, you miss it. When you miss it, like, kind of throws my day because I'm planning on it. And, you know, I apologize. I was like, well, you know, there's almost 1,000 episodes now, so I'm sure you haven't heard every one of them, and you could go back and, you know, check out an archived episode. She's like, no, I've heard every episode. I'm like, shoot.
Oh my
First,
gosh.
awesome. You were incredible. Second, okay, you got me there. And I apologize, and I'll do my best not to miss in the future.
I know, you have diehard fans because you're so consistent, and it's so important.
Oh, well, yeah, it makes it easy when I get the amazing feedback and, you know, getting to connect more than ever these days with the audience, the listeners, and who are really co-creating the whole experience with me and with all of us. And so, you know, as I've gotten to know more and more people, it's just like, there's so many beautiful reflections and extensions of, you know, the same consciousness. And the way I view it is we're all, you know, it's all one giant epic, you know, tree of life, if you will. Source is everything, of course. But then you have, you know, the way I view it is you have certain branches with leaves that happen to be on the same branch. So if you imagine this tree that stretches through eternity, then, you know, here is this one little branch, and on that branch there's a couple leaves, and those leaves happen to be, you know, blowing in the wind next to each other in the winds of eternity. And that's how I view it, is like the people are really, you know, connecting here, from you as my guest to the listeners that are really tuning in and feeling the show, right, enough to listen to almost 1,000 episodes or any portion thereof when there's so much content out there. It's the way I view it is like, oh, this is all close soul family, you know, and we're attracted to our little soul pods, and it's the way we sort of evolve and grow together through eternity is my view. And to me, it's just like a very beautiful way to envision. It's like very romantic even, you know, like, oh, we all like find each other again through all these lifetimes and play different roles. And you know, I had someone on not too long ago who was talking about you know, really taps into like past life stuff. And he's like, well, just so you know, Brandon, he started at the top. He goes, just so you know, as I tap in, you have significant karmic ties with about 20% of your guests. And, wow. Yeah. And so I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. Now, you know, I don't know for sure that is or isn't the case. It's a very interesting concept, and, you know, perhaps it is indeed the case. And it makes sense to me based off of my intuitive understanding and view of how things work, us coming back together and crossing paths over and over again. And we sort of take this journey through physicality, in groups, I feel.
Yes, it's such a beautiful analogy. And, like attracts like, frequency attracts frequency. So I think we're drawing to us what is closest to us, kind of like those closest to us on the ladder that are going through the same things we're going through. We're all really close to each other, and we're just sharing our little extra pieces of the puzzle to help the other one. It's really just a beautiful, grand puzzle we're putting together, finding our place in the divine plan, which is something I really want to get into today. But and so, once again, thank you for your service. And it's fantastic.
Oh, speaking of that, our mutual friend, who we actually were introduced through, Sandra Walters, who's just absolutely epic and was just on for the second time recently. If those of you who maybe missed that, go and you can search her name on the site. She is incredible, as I'm sure Giselle will attest to. And a great example of that, a lot of you guys listening have heard me talk about my crazy synchronicity story with my birthday. And Sandra, actually, when we first met her, somehow it came up, and I was telling her, I have this, I don't know if I've ever told you it, Giselle, this crazy thing with my birthday where it's my dad's and all these family members and people come into my life all the time with it, and in really dramatic fashion. And I was telling her about it. She goes, "Oh, that's my dad's birthday." And I'm like, "Of course it is."
Oh my gosh. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it really is cool. So Giselle, why don't you do this? If you could give a little, usually when I first have someone on the show, I have them share a little bit of their journey, their story, how they got on the path that they're on. And I know you did that before, and your journey has even taken some twists and turns since, in that last year and a half or so since you were originally on. Maybe you can just give everyone a little bit of a recap, on who you are and how you got here.
I would love to. And shout out to Sandra. I love Sandra so much. We were on the phone for an hour last night, and we were just like going over our notes because we feel like we experience parallel lives. It's like so many things that are happening to her are happening to me. So we check in.
Interesting.
It's a beautiful reflection. So lots of love to Sandra.
That says a lot about you because, she is, I've had a lot of guests on here, and I really feel like she is like one of the purest lights of anyone I've ever known. There's just like something really ethereal and angelic about her energy. And, and I think that the listeners, definitely feel that way too. Cause a lot of people, the time she's been on, respond to connecting with her, and getting involved with her work.
She's here for a big lifetime of service, doing a very big thing. No doubt about it. She doesn't waver. I know her very well. She never wavers from that. She walks the talk, talks the walk. She is that. So anyway, quick background about me, besides being a good friend of Sandra's. I guess that's kind of big on your resume anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I'm a divine
we both got that on our resume.
Yeah, that's top. Anyway, I am a divine channel, and I've been one for years. It started about 4 to 5 years ago, and I channel cosmic rays and decrees and higher light streams. And I've done this for years. I have 6 books out. Some of the titles are the Platinum Ray, Decrees and Discourses, and they're actually I am Presence books, continuation from Saint Germain. But the Platinum Ray Decrees, which came through really strong, it's an energy that exists. It's a frequency. It's actually a frequency that only comes around for ascending planets. It's here for a short period of time to assist with the impeccability of mankind in this whole ascension process. It's tremendous. When you read the decrees every day, you actually become that. You might lose some friends because you become so right and so impeccable in everything you do. So it's kind of interesting to do that for a while in your life. Another book is the Golden Christed Ray. That is about opening the heart. That's stepping into our Christed consciousness. Those are beautiful codes that really just melt your heart. There's a lot of actually channeling from Jesus in that book. Wow. And my latest book is The Codes of Immortality. And that's what ties in with the DNA, the epigenetics. And these are codes that actually help us activate 12-strand DNA. And I have 3 other books about my experience. They're not channeled. So it's all mostly on Amazon. And I love writing. So I've been doing that for years. And then I took a break and founded the Conscious Media Festival, which is all about birth. And this is where I met you, birthing the next level of consciousness speakers and leaders, of which you are one. And that was 2 years. We also birthed New Earth and many New Earth projects. So many people met. I still hear ripple effect stories of people that are now friends, collaborating, doing New Earth projects from that. And it will continue next year in a whole new way, which I will announce later on. And so it was all about that. So just like many of us whose roles are changing with this embodiment process, I'm sure you are too, because you're doing a TV show, Brandon. We're all stepping into these surprising new roles. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm a certified epigenetic coach. I was totally called to go into the epigenetics, the DNA, and I'm also an iconic branding coach. So the basis of all my service now, besides just delivering messages and codes, is to use my channeling gifts to help visionaries and to help them find their iconic, soul-fulfilling brand and then actually become that. And that to me is that's my destiny, is to help others find that. And it's so fulfilling, and I love it. And I didn't see myself going from speaking to working with individuals. I'm still speaking. I love that. And I am now just loving this. And it's like opening up. It's kind of where all light workers are right now, because it's got this theme right now of going from spiritual into the material. So we are making this transition, and it's very exciting, and I have so much to say about it. So that's kind of a snapshot of where I am right now, and super excited because, hey, the game has changed, and we are now engaged in life, embodied.
Yes. You know, I didn't recall that you, I recalled that you were an author, but I didn't recall the content of your books or that they were actually channeled material. And it's really interesting to me how many people are having this sort of channeling experience. It seems to be, I mean, you know, I think back to years back, first even hearing of the phenomenon, it was this like very, you know, wild, odd kind of concept. And now it seems like, you know, I mean, the number of people I know who are like, oh yeah, I can speak to spirit, or, oh yeah, I channel,
light
you know,
language, yes, exactly.
Yeah, light language or whatever it is. And it's just like, wow, it just seems to be. And as I always say about the phenomenon, it's like, you know, I haven't ever had an experience where I feel like I'm necessarily channeling someone else. Although I think from one perspective, all art, all inspiration is coming, you know, inspiration in spirit, right? Where is it coming from? What's coming through you is, you know, would it be any stranger that some other non-physical entity is somehow connecting to this physical form, any physical form, and communicating through it, than the fact that we're here at all communicating? Like, who are you? Where did you come from? That's weird enough. We've just gotten used to it, right? So I'm so open to the idea, and, you know, and what I found is a lot of the supposedly channeled material, books and whatnot, and otherwise, even like take, you know, Abraham, Esther Hicks, you know, one of my very favorite teachers, and I know you're a big fan too. It's like, okay, they're claiming to be channeling. All I know is the information. I can't say what they are or aren't doing, where the information's coming from, because I'm not them. But I can say the information is super high vibe. It's like super inspiring. Something definitely special going on there, I feel. And so to me, that's a great indicator of what's, you know, okay, that I tend to believe that is indeed what's happening. So, you know, you said, I'm curious, and you said this phenomenon began for you, you know, 5 years or so ago. Just kind of curious how that unfolded for you.
Well, what's interesting is I was really calling it in. I was making my lifestyle all about consciousness. I was getting up at 4:00 and meditating. I was just all into my spiritual growth. And so what happened was I started channeling. And I remember I was driving across New Mexico when my first channel message came in, and I was guided to pull over and write it down. And then I was guided to share it. And when I shared it, all this energy flooded into my body. And I'm like, ooh, wow, I love this. And I'm like, this is someplace I want to go. And so I kept cultivating that until I was actually living a lifestyle of getting up at 4 a.m. and just channeling like the platinum ray. I'll just start writing. This energy will come through in a stream, and I'll start writing. And before I know it, it's a book, and it just comes in these ways. And so I became very enamored with channeling. And I did that for years. All these books came through. And then one day the channeling stopped. And I'm like, whoa, what am I doing wrong? I spent so much time reviewing my life, thinking, oh my gosh, I must have lost it. I've gone backwards. Why is there no more channeling happening? Until I realized that we reach a point where we just kind of become our higher selves.
Right.
And all that comes into our heart. All those beings are aspects of ourselves. And
Right.
you no longer can hear, oh, this is so-and-so, or this is so-and-so, or this is this being. It's just you. You just are the channel. And so when I finally gave myself permission to say, okay, it's cool. I haven't done anything wrong. And I didn't go
Right.
backwards. I'm just kind of now meant to be that. And it becomes wisdom at some point.
Right. Right.
And it becomes a way you are. Yes.
It makes a lot of sense for me because you have, a lot of people who are having the experience. I mean, I just had someone on the other day, Elizabeth April, and she started having some powerful experiences that she shared, channeling and connecting with other aspects of herself. And it was, what could be viewed as like sort of an extraterrestrial entity. And she's like, okay, at first I'm connecting with this entity, and there's like communication and whatnot. And then all of a sudden I realize I am that entity. It's like, so that seems to be a phenomenon that's happening over and over for people. You realize all these guides and ascended masters and spirit guides, whatever it is you're connecting with, it's another aspect of self, which of course makes sense because ultimately it's just a matter of, what degree of separation we're speaking from. What perspective are we speaking from?
And look what that says about humanity. That back at, even 4 years ago, I was like, wow, I'm channeling a higher being. And I would just be, like I said, I was enamored with that. And now it's like, we don't even use the names of the beings anymore. It's just incorporated into our expression, into our reflection. So look how that's how fast humanity is evolving right there, which is kind of like where I want to go next with something, which is about how fast things are evolving. I mean, if we take a snapshot of humanity right now, we have had a stunning increase in collective consciousness. Wouldn't you not agree with that? It's like so accelerated. Christ consciousness is here. We're bringing light now through these bodies, and we're actually creating a new standard of living. Here's the exciting part for me. Since we are new beings and we've come off the mountain, literally, I came off the mountain in Sedona. I was called off the mountain, like, okay, you've been here off and on 8 years. We're sending you back into the matrix, into Austin, Texas, or wherever you want to go, but you're being called off the mountain. And this is an analogy for a lot of us. You're being called off the mountain and onto the television, onto the screen. So we're all like finding ourselves being pulled out of something into something else. And so this is what it's all about, embodying our spirituality, because we are the spiritual experience now. And how exciting is that? How it's like the greatest time ever to be alive, because the spiritual is coming into the material. And guess what? This is all part of the divine plan. It's been the plan all along. Brandon, if I can tell you a quick story about me real quick. When I was 11 years old, I was in this library in Corpus Christi, Texas. The public library was in one of those temporary buildings, they used to have. And it was in the parking lot behind JCPenney's. This is Corpus, back when. And so I was in the library running around, and all of a sudden I saw this book, and I pulled it out and I opened it up, and I kid you not, I opened up to Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs Pyramid. And I looked at it, all in color, and I saw the word self-actualization on top. And I'm like, whoa. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to do that.
But I want some.
That's what I'm doing. It's just like, okay, that was just like as an 11-year-old. And by the way, as an aside, since then, Maslow, after that, he came up with another triangle on top of that called self-transcendence, because he himself made the journey into mastery, and he called it meta motivation as the basic drive to become transcended. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, it is beautiful. He was so ahead of his time. So my journey has been an exploration of this theme ever since, with awakenings. I had a guru at one point. I became a spiritual yoga teacher, different teachers I've had, endless seminars, et cetera, et cetera. And there's so many words for this basic human need that he called meta motivation: to improve, to evolve, to remember, to activate, and now to embody. So the best part of all this is, guess what? Like we just talked about, this has been part of the divine plan all along. So the true divine plan for humanity is right now, at this time in history, on a cellular level, to receive the frequency of light necessary for every person's 12-strand master DNA to reactivate as it was eons ago. How exciting is that? That's where we are. And that's why these activations, it's so exciting, the 12-strand, and you can actually feel it. I mean, I can endlessly talk about this. I love DNA. When I was in 6th grade, I did my science project on the deoxyribonucleic acid model made out of Tinker Toys. And that was like, cool. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I love it. So anyway, this is what's really exciting about humanity right now. So many of us, probably everyone listening to this podcast is going through some form of embodiment right now. And so let's look at the definition of embodiment. It's like the buzzword right now. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because that's the part of ascension we're in. So like, if you look in the dictionary, it says embodiment is to make something tangible, something that's abstract. So like a man, to make him more godlike, that would be making something abstract, bringing it into the tangible, or experiencing life at creator level. That's the definition I like. And you can call it Christ consciousness. And let's just talk a minute about what it feels like. So, and this is what I love to talk about. What does this feel like embodying? And I would just say, and I want to hear what you have to say too, but I would say like there's this new kind of, I mean, yesterday I told someone I was experiencing robust bliss. Ooh. I'm just like feeling this presence, this kind of unshakable presence and confidence with what I'm doing. Like, I'm just like, I know why I'm here, what I'm doing. And I'm just letting it all organize around me. I'm not so worried. I'm trusting more. I'm still engaged. I can still get really angry and activated in traffic, whatever. It's like I'm fully in the life experience. It's like somebody turned on me times 100, feeling, thinking, everything is on right now. Yeah. How has it been? Are you experiencing this as well?
Yes, I definitely feel, I saw something the other day and it was saying, the most spiritual thing you can do is be fully human. And, I think that's a really powerful concept, is like, we didn't come here to get lost in the ethers and float away. We came here to anchor that energy into physicality. And I think we're doing it. I think, we are, a lot of people are doing the work. A lot of us are bringing that energy in, and we are, it doesn't mean we're not still being triggered at times or reacting or getting a little frazzled, like, you and I did when we couldn't get our audio working this morning. And it's but then you check into yourself and you're like, oh, okay, hold on. That energy is not what I want to embody. And now we're not gonna beat ourselves up for having gotten, for being frustrated on the road at traffic or whatever. It's like more and more of catching yourself and then observing yourself without judgment and then releasing it. And it's like those unconscious moments are fewer and fewer and farther between. And you become, the way I like to think of it is, embodying your higher self, right? Which is essentially what you said a minute ago. You said it a little differently, but like you're bringing that in. And the more that you can move into a state of seeing things from the perspective that your higher self does, your expanded self, your non-physical self, that's, essentially merging with it. So, how does higher self see this? What is the perspective on this? Why is this happening for me? All of these people, if someone's doing something to me unconsciously, instead of me saying, gosh, look at them, look how screwed up they are and why I'm right and why they're wrong. It's like, what if I treat everyone like a guru except me? And they're all there just to help me sharpen my axe, helping me to become the next greatest and greatest version of myself and to embody more of my expanded, higher self, whatever you want to refer to it as. And that is, seems to just be escalating more and more. And for me personally, the challenges have been more intense. I mean, just
Yes.
this whole process of I'm about to move in a week and a half to
Oh
2
my
weeks.
gosh.
It's for the first time in 8 years, and with
Same
that
with me.
entails.
Exact same, yes.
Oh, really? So moving
just
for the
moved.
first time, living with a bunch of people, including listeners on the show who are coming for
Oh my
retreats.
gosh.
So hosting retreats, living with new people, helping to run the retreats, plus hosting retreats 37 weeks out of the year, plus shooting a new show. Plus all kinds of things going on with my travel company that are sort of major shifts and changes and stresses and exciting things and challenging things and stressful things. And it's like I'm being stretched in a way I never have been before. And if even a year ago or a few years ago, it would have like melted me down. I would have just been like, okay, this is just too
Yes,
much energy.
exactly.
I can't handle it all. It's breaking me. And
this is
now I'm
for
not.
the lighthearted.
Yeah. And now I'm able to like embody it and like, okay, it doesn't mean it's not challenging. It doesn't mean I don't slip, but I'm like, okay, this is like this is becoming the butterfly, and that process for the caterpillar isn't always,
It's
beautiful.
because you have more bandwidth now, Brandon. That's
Yep.
the DNA. That's what's happening with our embodiment. We have more bandwidth, so you're fuller, bigger, more, taking on more. And the beautiful thing, I love what you said about the higher self. Guess what? Higher self doesn't have a memory. It doesn't remember. It's not going to hold on to anything. It's like, I call it like disappearing footprints. Like whatever happened 5 minutes ago, you just let it go. It's
Right.
like, yeah, even
love
your
that.
muscles can do this. You can work out and be super sore, and then you not be sore because your muscles, if you're in a higher state of consciousness, your muscle memory won't even remember that. And you will not, and
Right.
you'll just be like, you'll run 8 miles and go, how did that happen? So that's what's up.
Wow.
We are now in this energy, and check this out. If we are feeling it now, wait till 2020.
That's what I hear.
If it is this intense right now, what is going to happen in 2020?
Yeah. My friend
Really
Sydney,
strong.
who's helping to run the retreats, and just amazing soul. She is an Akashic Records reader, and she's like, Brandon, wait till you see like 3 years from now. She goes, you're
Oh my
going to look
gosh.
back. She's like, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, it's so radically different than it is now. And she's just like, you just aren't even going to believe how much shift I'm being shown is coming. Like it's, because it's a quickening, right? It's like, it took, this is something that's explained in one of my favorite movies, Waking Life by Richard Linklater. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's
Love that
incredible.
movie.
Oh, it's so good. And there's a part where one of the guys in the movie is, and for those of you who haven't seen it, it's like all about like out of body experience and philosophizing and experiencing out of body, and very cool the way it was done visually. And anyway, there's a point in that, I don't know if you remember it or not, Giselle, where the guy's talking about the quickening, and he said, look, it took us thousands of 200,000 to 300,000 years, they think, right? It took us how many hundreds of thousands of years to get to modern history, right? Like, 6,000 years, 10,000 years ago, whatever it is, you had hundreds of thousands of years that we don't, and of course there's theories that there was advanced civilizations and things like that, and probably was, but, we certainly know there was also a long caveman period at the very least. It's somewhere in there, and it's like where we were just kind of the same, right? And using the same stone, axe and same tools, and very primitive, and, and then at some point, finally you evolve to modern history, which is like, we invent farming, and there's some change actually happening after all this long expansive time. Then it was a shorter, the quickening, the next major like, the Dark Ages, there started to be some changes, the Middle Ages, you get to 1,000 years ago or so. Well, that was a much shorter time period for some major shifts to start happening. Then it was even shorter from there, hundreds of years, to like the Industrial Revolution. Right. And then from the Industrial Revolution to, the computer age, even shorter period of time. And so this quickening where these major leaps are happening in short periods of time. And what the guy goes on to say in that, he goes, what is ultimately coming, and we talk about, the idea of, of course, with artificial intelligence and some of the things like that will happen there, where, these artificial intelligent, creations that we make start creating more intelligent things, and it becomes where ultimately we'd be looking at evolutions that would have maybe taken billions of years at one time happen in an afternoon, right? This
absolutely, that's the collapse
radical
of time that's happening. Yes, collapse.
Right.
So there's no more space between the synapses, and so when it goes that fast and it's that intense and that strong. Now moment. And how do we navigate that? Highest choices, now moment. Highest choice, now moment. Keep heart activated.
Right.
That's really it, because we're pretty much there now.
Right.
We are pretty much there now. Which
is not my grandma's world, that's for sure.
And that's why, and actually, if we're in the collapse of time and it's all about the now moment, that's where the epigenetics piece, spiritual epigenetics, comes in, because that's how we amplify that, and that's how we take that energy and use it for the propulsion of our highest states. And that's exciting. Right. You want to get into epigenetics for a minute? I
would love to get into epigenetics for multiple minutes.
Okay, so here we go. And I love that story, by the way. That's like a beautiful history of evolution. And now
it really is.
We went so fast, we're like, there's no more space between the beats now.
Now it's just the big shifts are coming in much shorter periods of time,
Yes.
Ever increasing.
Totally. Okay, so you've heard of the Adam-Kadmon body. Probably many people listening have heard of it. So in the Kabbalah, it talks about the primordial man. Speaking of going back into history, right? And the primordial man is spoken of as Adam-Kadmon, hence the name Adam, the first being, Adam and Eve, and the first being to come from the infinite Godhead, and was essentially indistinguishable from God. So there was a being, according to the Bible, that came out that was this, okay? So if there's a primordial man, there's a primordial cell. And the primordial cell contains the blueprint to reactivate and turn on our DNA. So we have a map. How cool is that? We have a map to get this turned on. We have people that know on the planet how to do activations. We're experiencing it. We have people like ahead of the curve bringing this information on. So it's fantastic. And we're going to get to later, like ways to speed that up. But I want to right now, since we're talking about these codes, I want to give everyone a free gift, which is the book I wrote, Codes of Immortality. And cool. So it's really simple. I'll do it now and at the end of the show, but all you have to do is text to the number 31996. And you just type in the word, it's like that's the phone number you're texting to. And you type in the word immortality. And that will prompt you and you'll get the book. And it has these codes. And I recommend printing them out, using them, because codes are actually, as you know, it's actually light, a stream of light, a piece of light, a package of light that comes through the light streams, through the dimensions, comes through our mouth into form as breath. So it's literally light made manifest. That's how they work. Yeah. So that's why they're so powerful. I think one day we'll be speaking in codes. Everything is a code. I just don't even get me started on codes. Everything goes to codes. It's all about the codes. So epigenetics, that's the lifestyle. And that is studying lifestyle and how we increase our light quotient. So lifestyle determines, ready for this, how our genes express. We don't change our DNA, but we can completely change how it expresses, how we eat, how we sleep, how we engage, how we pair bond, how we find satiety. Everything we do can be changed through lifestyle. That is powerful. So no matter what genetics you're born with, you might have been born with some kind of who knows what, you can consciously change your expression, and you can get things to not express, and you can upregulate other things just by our choices of lifestyle. And even the best news, we're in the right lane of business, Brandon, because guess what trumps all genetics? One thing, and that's consciousness. And so you and I doing this podcast, how we live, how we devote our lives to this changes how our genes express, so that we become that superhuman. We become that fully activated through conscious participation. So I call it precision lifestyle. So it's all about how we embody, how we turn all this on, and how this all happens. And so the lane that I'm really excited about is something that I'm calling spiritual epigenetics. And that's taking this and looking at life as an approach of high performance. So science and physics come together and to create a new lane of high performance, but we're not trying to become athletes or high performers in business per se. That's a side effect. We're just looking to find how much light we can carry. And so that's a new kind of performance, and we do it through precision embodiment. And this is a giant new field that's coming out. Stunning results happening, physics and metaphysics coming together. So how exciting is that? So we can actually study this.
Super.
So it's just what's up. So we train to carry light and live at a creator level. And it's like the difference between exercising and training. We can exercise because we know we have to walk to the mailbox every day and we know we have to keep our heart rate going, or we can train. Whole new mindset. I'm going to get the best coach. I'm going to use wearables. I'm going to measure my performance, my heart rate variability. I'm going to dial all this in to the very best of my performance. I'm going to study stress response. So two very different mindsets. And if we apply what science has learned to our level of carrying light, that's when things can get really exciting. And I think a lot of people are going to be drawn to this area. You're familiar with the physicist Nassim Haramein, right?
Yep. He's been on the show, actually.
Has he really? How wonderful.
Yeah, he was
He's
great.
so great. He's actually doing a thing in the Redwoods in California at the end of July that I'm going to be participating in. But he has this quote, and it says it all. The concept of spirituality is generally just physics we haven't understood.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Isn't that profound? That means, is God just a science? I mean,
if anyone wants to go check out, just to throw it out there real quick, episode number 111 was when he was on. So,
what a great number, 111.
I know. Of course, he landed. That's what I was about to say. Of course, he landed on the 111.
111, the beginning. Yes, that's so cool because if you know that changes our thinking about spirituality. That is
right.
that's like a game. That's a disruptor thought right there. So if spirituality is just a level of coherence, it kind of makes you rethink a lot of things. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would. It's almost one of those things that gets you. It's almost a little challenging. It's like, hold on. Oh, so you can almost interpret it as like, oh, there's no magic, right? Or you could interpret it as everything is magic. And so it's really not, it's like if everything is magic, then from one sense, then nothing is magic, which kind of makes sense.
I love looking at that. That's a really thought-provoking question. And also, you can also take it to look like, well, maybe everything, even coherence, is science and geometry. Because at some point, we're all just geometry. We're all just like these beautiful light.
Well, that's the experiences too. The people that have spiritual experiences, oftentimes, they're having, whatever sort of multidimensional rendezvous they may have through meditation or plant medicine or whatever. How often do we hear, oh my gosh, I was all of a sudden in this other place and there was these beings there and there was sacred geometry all over the place. It's like a recurring sort of experience, right?
Yes. And I think being open to rethinking spirituality, just like Nassim is not afraid to combine metaphysics and physics together. And why don't we bring them together? And I think it's for so long we've been like science versus God. And now it's like, whoa, I think they're the same thing. And I think we're going to advance much faster when we embrace that. Even though it may confront our ideas of spirituality, like, no, it's all about spirituality. It's all a mysterious God function. Well, is it?
Yeah, right.
Is it? So anyway, that's like one of the most exciting things. So when we do this, we're working on our lifestyle. We're bringing in all of these new things. And I'm going to go over some of the ways to do it in a little bit. But first, just let's paint a picture. So we're activating our DNA and we become funner and faster. When you're with your tribe and everything just like amps up, everything's clicking, snapping into place. That is actually a DNA activation that we give each other when we're together. We're on mission. We're on point. We're open. We emanate. We amplify. And we're actually changing how our genes are expressing. We're actually becoming better humans, better beings through the spin dynamics of it all. Because once again, that's even a science. The spin of this, the funner, the faster, that's like a science. Okay.
Right.
And so we call it precision embodiment. And we just step by step look at our genetic test kits. We do 45-minute reading. We do all of these things. We do assessments. When we work on this from a performance level, we look at our habit formation. We look at our mindset. We look at our branding, our soul purpose. We look at all these things, and they create one really refined human being on target, in love, and just like going for what they're here to do. So take, for example, right now, are there any people around you right now, Brandon, in your room or where you are?
Nope.
In your house?
There are some people in my house, I believe.
Okay, so in our immediate environment, we each have 3 billion base pairs of genes. Can you imagine? And they are constantly sampling everything in our environment. They're communicating, they're merging, they're sampling everything in your experience, from your thought to your body to your environment, because DNA is this multidimensional antenna. So when we start, that's the easiest way I found to look at it. So we have this antenna constantly on. It's constantly reading everything in every dimension. And so we can control a lot of that to express at higher levels. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I use a word. There's a thing that I call vibrational stacking. And these are the ways, this is going into actually how it happens. And I'm just going to go through a few of these. I think it's helpful for people to just this may activate some kind of new area that maybe you haven't been up leveling on or up regulating your genes on. So the first one on here is called Frequency of Beauty. There's a show on Netflix I've been watching called Gardens of Italy. And it's really gorgeous. When you look at it, it's this guy doing tours of gardens. And you're looking at these gardens where people in the past spent probably millions of dollars in modern day money on these gardens that you would walk through, these huge, city-sized gardens that were strictly there for one purpose: to experience beauty. Can you imagine? Can you imagine modern day? I'm going to go spend all of my $10 million on a garden in the middle of a city just so people can see beauty in nature.
So wonderful.
I love that. And I want to see humanity go back in that lane. I think we can bring it into our lives because there is a frequency to beauty. How we look, feel, act, clothes have a frequency, everything. And I kind of want to let's bring beauty back. It's for a while, spirituality was just kind of a renouncing kind of world. And hey, can we just bring all that back in and make life way more exciting and beautiful and colorful? And one of my goals for 2020, unless it's too much on my plate, is to do a Frequency of Beauty tour to Europe. And we go just to experience the beauty of everything. Gardens, art, because there's so much of there in concentrated places.
It's funny that you say that, because that's really was my big inspiration for Optimistic, was sort of looking at a lot of the programming that's out there, spirit centric and otherwise, I'd seen a lot of the programming, and it's okay, this is great. The content is great, but I feel like there needs to be a little bit more of an entertainment factor. There needs to be, I'm really into environments and creating vibe and, lighting, and all of that sort of aesthetic is super, it affects me greatly, and I'm, it's just really important to me. And so, I'd been thinking for a very long time, watching different programs, and I'm like, okay, this content is great, but the setting itself is not, aesthetically that beautiful, and if there was some more art flair to
our
it,
production
right?
level is not up to speed.
It wasn't that it was bad. It's just not there. There isn't that artistic beauty, right, and flair there. And so I would see this, and then it finally culminated with one day my son showing me a wonderful podcast. I love Joe Rogan's podcast, but it was him sitting in front of a brick wall, and then his guest had an American flag behind him or something. I'm thinking, where's the aesthetics? This thing, this is the content is really cool. Give me something that feels, more artsy. And I get it. That's not his, his angle, or he's not maybe is sensitive to that, as I am. But those are the things that really ultimately instigated me to, set off on the trail to create Optimistic. And it was all like, I want to see more aesthetic. I want more vibe. I want more art injected. I want it to be more entertainment, and so it's really interesting that you say that, because I feel that 110%, that the effects of the beauty and the vibe and the, it truly does carry its own frequency.
Oh yeah, we are bringing beauty back. And let me just tell you how ahead of the curve you are, because one of the themes that I see happening, I love looking at big themes. One of the themes is the intersection of entertainment and consciousness, right? Check this out.
Right.
I was speaking of Joe Rogan podcast. There in Austin, Texas, there's a Paramount Theater, which is beautiful. It's like one of those operatic kind of theaters. And so old school. So there was an event, and it was somebody local, and he was interviewing somebody, I think it was Gary Vanderkamp. And that was the whole evening. It's like a conversation. And I was like, wow, I bought a ticket because I said, this is new. And I went there, and it was literally a podcast on the stage. Everyone paid top dollar for a seat to a theater where it was just a podcast on stage with a dynamic Q&A. And I went, okay, this is the future. Consciousness and entertainment. Sandra and I have talked about this quite a bit. We're always co-creating along these lines. We have fun with it. But what you're doing, when I heard about Optimistic, I went, oh my God, Brandon's ahead of the curve. He's doing that. And you are, because you're actually adding a third level, which is the aesthetic plus consciousness plus entertainment. So I really applaud you for what you're doing. It's so out there ahead of the curve. That's where we're going. People want something that gives them a higher outcome.
Yeah, I agree.
You are hungry for this. Yes.
I agree. I'm hungry for it, which is why I wanted to create it. And you have the live audience, and it's cozy. And then there's musical performance. Then there's live, we just have incorporated live visionary art as well. And then, these types of conversations with all of those things interwoven, to me is just like, yes, please. I want to be a part of that as much as possible. I want to watch it. I want to create it. I want to, invite others to co-create it, and letting the fans actually, and listeners come and be on the stage as well and ask some questions, and just weave all these elements into one thing is just
I'm so
super inspiring for me.
Yeah, congratulations. I know it's a lot of work, but I just can't wait to see how that all unfolds for you. So
thank you.
Going back to the vibrational stacking, you're welcome. The next thing is the elegance of breath. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this. Here's an example. The ancient yogis, they knew how to use breath as a technology to bring in higher consciousness. And now science is catching up to people like Desica Char, the masters of the breath. And their science is catching up through measuring levels of CO2 in the brain. So we tend to breathe really shallow and high in our body. That makes a person hypercapniac, which means there can be too much CO2 in the brain, which keeps you in the fight or flight syndrome. It determines your conscious state. If we learn to regulate our breath, like the yogi masters knew, and breathe differently and allow a whole CO2 level to be perfectly adjusted, we can actually live from a higher conscious state. And that's learning how to live with about, like a great example would be 6 breaths per minute. If you measure your breath, we won't do it now, but there's a lot of people that are breathing 19 breaths per minute. That's what civilization is.
Fast and shallow.
Yeah, we're just running around. And if we learn how to do that, that's like a superhuman skill that's taught to high level performers. So that's elegance of breath, hypercapniac, hypocapniac. There's a whole science here. Love that. The next, notice how all these things have elegance in them. The third thing is I'm seeing for all of this light quotient increasing is to understand the elegant refusal. So when I started about 6 months ago, when all this started coming on board for me, when I used to have a guru years ago, everything was a yes. Be a yes to service. Be a yes to this. That was like You got to be a yes. Well, guess what? Now I'm a no. It's like, now I'm a no, no, no. And what I'm doing is I'm realizing, yes, that's really close, but no, that's not exactly right for me. And when we start having like unshakable awareness of like, no, thank you. And thank you, let go. Thank you, let go. Changing things in our lives, moving cities, changing services. It's thank you, let go. Thank you, let go. Don't look back and just move forward with that highest choice. And it's so freeing to be able to just say no to what is not serving.
Right. I think that's such an important point. Yeah, it's such an important point.
That's probably hard for you now with this show that you started, because you are in it now, Brandon. You're deep in it. And there's a lot of, I'm sure you're juggling so many balls, but you said yes to the big question. And I'm sure you will navigate your way perfectly through all that, knowing exactly who's to be on it, what's to be on, etc.
Right.
Okay. So another thing is, of course, everybody knows this, it's the non-negotiable heart coherence. And this is where wearables come in. You know, HeartMath has something you can wear on your wrist that actually measures your heart rate variability. You can make sure, there's so many devices out there, the Muse, the this, that measure consciousness, that measure your heart rate. And it's actually really good because that's precision. When you actually, it's the observer effect. When you actually know what your body is, how it's breathing, how it's sleeping, and these devices can measure all this. How deep you're going in meditation, what's your delta sleep like, what's your recovery rate at. This is pretty exciting because once we're aware, we make all the adjustments. And sleep technology is huge. I have a friend, Dr. Micah Hamilton, and she says, hold sleep sacred. And she's a big leader in the field of epigenetics, and she's right. I mean, every human needs at least 7.5 hours. That's kind of the minimum. 7.5 to 8 hours.
For me, it is. For me, that's the minimum. If I don't get that, then I am a very efficient person with a lot of energy, and I can get a lot of work done. Give me 6 hours of sleep, and I'm useless. Like, it's,
you know why? Your sleep deprivation affects 7,000 genes of it deregulates 7,000 genes in your body.
Wow.
That's how big sleep deprivation is. Somebody I know that was getting their doctorate, and as a medical doctor, they are so sleep deprived, and they actually did some telomere studies, and their telomeres were shortening. I mean, this has been proven through science. This is not guesswork. This is all precision embodiment. Okay, next thing, decrees and codes. We know how this works. Really important. Elaborate codes, speaking codes, write codes, and saying codes out loud. And I really encourage everyone to look at the codes of immortality and work with those. They change your DNA. And then, of course, we know sound vibration, sound healing music. That's like a whole world into itself. The vibratory world within itself. Not a lot needs to be said about that. I think everyone listening is really dialed into that. And then, but here's the latest discovery in this whole vibrational stacking that is kind of a missing piece for people. And I'm kind of so excited about this. And what it is, it's finding our soul fulfilling destiny as an aspect of our full embodiment. Because when that's turned on, all this uncertainty goes away. All these things start clicking into place, which change your genetic expression. And so I have found that so many light workers are so close, have been so close for so long to a breakthrough. They've been doing their work. They're sharing their services. They have their spiritual gifts, but somehow it's just not getting traction. They have uncertainty about what they're doing. It's never taken off. And I see over and over again, all this talent, all these spiritual gifts, not matching bank accounts, not getting traction. People staying invisible, people that are in the spiritual lane that have the same kind of tired language about their services, that are not unique, that are not specific. And this is a whole new area. So not knowing our next level is like a big deal. So I love people finding their iconic brand and living that. I mean, when you found this TV show, tell me about that process. Was that like, oh my God, yes, this is going to be a destiny fulfilling process for me?
Yeah, it definitely was. It was, one of the things that I've really worked through, and I've talked about this on the show before, is understanding, as we become as we sort of wake up to, and there is definitely a collective consciousness. So, when something is out there in the ethers, if I'm a close vibrational match to it, I can pull it in and all of a sudden have that idea. And as someone who's always been like, more ideas than I have time my whole life, very sort of lots of visions of what could or couldn't be, or things to try, or, I went down many paths in my life. And it's taken me a while to really realize, okay, just because something is coming through for me and I can feel the excitement of it, I can feel the potential of it, I could see how I could be, a great person to sort of steward it into the world, maybe it isn't for me to do it. I'm tapping into the collective consciousness, and it's really for someone else, perhaps. And that took me a long time to get. And what I started to realize is, okay, if something really excites me, and then it still excites me the next day at the same level, then I start maybe turning over rocks to consider pursuing it, and things seem to be opening up really, unfolding it's like flowing, then and the excitement remains, then I know it's for me. And I think that's one of the challenging things for all of us on this path is we're all so gifted, right? Everyone listening, you're so gifted. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. And it starts to get, okay, which direction do I go? You become like, for me, I've been like squirrel many times. Oh, squirrel over here. Oh, squirrel over here. Yeah. And I think you can probably relate to that too, Giselle. Yes. And it's like, okay, once you can settle into the knowing that there is many things you can do. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. And there is one, at any given time anyway, there's going to be a primary path for you. And it may shift over time and new chapters unfold and new, crossroads come and, forks in the road, if you will. But at any given time, there's what is your highest and greatest path that you can take in this now. And when you start to understand that there is many things that you could do, but there's one thing that is sort of like, at least one thing that is sort of, you are the best person to steward that on planet Earth. There's no one more, more qualified. There's no one more qualified than you to be the one to bring that particular thing through. And I think a lot of people get caught up in comparison and judgment and, I can't do what he does or she does. And look at where they're at and they're so far ahead. And it's like, no, there is no comparison. You are a one of a kind emanation of source, a fractal, unlike any other fractal. In some ways, you're the same, but in others, you're completely unique. And there is going to be something that is perfectly suited for you that no one on planet Earth could do better than you. And it's why it is your highest calling and your gift. And when you know that that is going to come through, and you trust that that is indeed the way this works, then you can relax about the timing of it. You can relax about missing your opportunity. You can relax into it, and then it now, because you have no resistance, it can present itself to you in a way that you start, this excites me. Day 2, it excites me even more. It excites me even more. Look at this synchronicity of how it's unfolding. Look at how, in my case, my gosh, look at how the first house I found listed on Craigslist, of all places, is this magical looking place. And I coincidentally get connected to the owner who didn't even know his assistant put it on there, who then I connect with. And it's like a soul brother that I never now we're like close friends. And, and it's like, it was meant, right? It just unfolded in a way that was just divine. Had I hit lots of roadblocks and the energy waned, and then I would know, okay, it's protecting me from wasting time. And I've done a lot of chasing things to a dead end by trying to force square pegs in a round hole. And you get to the point where you start to realize, I'm going to follow the flow. I'm going to follow the excitement with a healthy sense of detachment and see where it goes. And if it starts going and flowing and continue, momentum builds, and it doesn't mean there's not challenges or obstacles, but overall it's flowing in a certain direction, and you can start to identify the difference between a meant to be challenge for your growth versus a roadblock that's trying to say wrong direction. You start to read these subtle energies more effectively and efficiently. It becomes a much easier way to navigate. You can't lose. You can't miss out. There's not only one chance to make your big break. Any of those things. It's like every moment is another chance to turn it all around, and you become a more sensitive, fine-tuned instrument at reading those currents.
I think you're rare. I'm going to say that you're rare because you learn to navigate that, because so many people They know what their gifts are, but they don't know how to organize them, put them in something and launch them out and make them successful and make money from them. So I think you're rare because you know how to navigate, but why do you think people have so much trouble finding that? And I've been studying this for years, and I have a good story about it also, but I think it's because people have a hard time finding that because it has to be pulled out of you. It's not like, let's see how many people in the world know why they're here. What would you say? 10% know, 100. How many people do you think really know why they're here and what they're doing and what their part in the divine plan is? Do you have a guess?
You know, if I get my knee-jerk reaction would be like 20%, 20%.
And I think that's really generous. I would say more like 5 or 10 because people have an idea like, oh, I like this area, but they have no clue because we can't see ourselves. And we all need it pulled out. We need this divine reflection. And because once we get that, this is what I see. When people get that reflection, their desired perception of who they want to be, doing what they want to be doing, they're just like lit on fire. It's like, everything falls in place. They know what their branding should look like. They know what they're going to do. Everything falls in place, but they have to see this desired perception. That's what I call the iconic brand. They have to see that. And not only that, they find their one sentence that defines what they're doing. When they find their one sentence, that's a worksheet I have people go through. It's like, there's this clarity and like the skies literally part. It's like, I know what I'm doing. And you get the feedback from the world. So a lot of visionaries are so close. They're so close and they have so much to offer, but they just have that one little piece that needs to be pulled through. And I really think if everyone knew that, I mean, it's a much faster way to step into your master DNA, to accelerate. It's happiness. It brings all these other codes. It brings so many codes into your life, upregulating everything. But I also think that there's a lot of traps that we run into trying to find that. Like for some of us, it's like people think they don't need a reflection. They're like, I'm really spiritual. I can do this myself. I know what I'm here for. But yet there's still this frustration level. Like I know some of the most talented sound healers, people that are doing spiritual work, and they're just like, they know what they're here for, but they just can't figure out that way to have it all line up. Does this make sense to you? And they're not finding the certainty like, okay, I know what I'm doing, because self-doubt is just the big killer. Like I've got it. I know what I'm doing. And all of a sudden, am I really doing that? Do I really need to do that? Is that, maybe it should be this over here. And another thing is people are not in touch with their destiny blueprint because we all have one. And that is pulled out of you also. Once you get those codes, that's this initial gut urge that exists within you as a blueprint that we have to go back into our childhood and recover that urge of joy and happiness that kind of drives the whole thing. So I think we all really need that reflection, because the real problem is we just haven't found our place in the divine plan. That's it. We want to be a part of this huge, beautiful puzzle. Like there's people that are really looking at you right now, Brandon, going, oh, wow, he found his place. It's going to be awesome. It's all of his gifts coming together out into the world. And everybody wants that. Everyone wants to know, I know why I'm here. And it's like that confidence, that surety, that lining up is jet fuel. That is power. And that's how you step into your power, because it's like, okay, I got this. That's why I'm here. And I love that. I love this work. And people, when they get this reflected, and a lot of times it is channeled. And I'm going to tell a story. I had my destiny channeled about, I guess it was 6 years ago. And it was right when I was starting to channel. And I'm like, I'm going to get my destiny reading. It was by somebody who does channeling just like I do. And so I got my reading and I was devastated. Because in my mind, I was like, I'm like this huge channel and spiritual person here to change the world as a spiritual teacher. That's what I thought I was going to get, right? That's what my ego wanted. And when I got the destiny of lifestyle designer and somebody who organizes spiritual gifts, is an angelic mentor and helps people find who they are, I'm like kind of like a life coach and a lifestyle designer and an iconic brander, and like exactly like my precision embodiment program. That's the lifestyle coaching job. When I got that, I was like, no way. And I just I was furious. I'm like, you gave me the wrong reading. I really was. And I got a letter back from this guy. This is how, because he's a good channel and you have to be with someone reliable. And he's like, you're going to waste some time thinking you're that, and you'll come back to this, but try not to waste too much time. And I'm just like, whatever. And so I love the fact that I channeled for years. And then I came back to my individual coaching after all those books came out. And I'm really happy to be back here because this is my destiny blueprint right here to help others find theirs until it just everything clicks. And it's like, that's what I'm doing. And they are just turned on. It's literally turning on 12 strands of purpose.
I love that. I love that. It's like there's no, once you realize your destiny is not necessarily a straight line. And a lot of us hit, I think what the difference between any success that I've ever had and those around me that I've watched is I've watched people time and time again, like they try something and then fail, try something, fail, and then they give up. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to resign to a life of mediocrity or normalcy, and I'm not going to keep believing. And if anything, it's appropriate that the new show is called Optimistic because, I can remember back to being, 20 years old and my uncle saying, Brandon, you're just the eternal optimist. And it really is. That's been my greatest gift. It's not even that I've always been right. I went down many rabbit holes that were like a waste of time or energy or not right for me or came to a dead end. But then I picked myself back up, keep believing, and it inevitably the universe will react to that energy for any of us, I think. I know.
I really feel like, as a channel, I really feel like you're on your divine purpose with this. I think it's going to be really blessed, and I really do feel that. That's why I'm so excited about it.
I
so
feel
going
it too.
Back to 100%, the destiny not being in a straight line, not only is it not in a straight line, destinies aren't always spiritual. Like just because you have spiritual gifts, one of my favorite examples is Netflix show Tidy Up with Marie Kondo. Have you seen that show?
I've heard about this. I haven't seen it, but I know of it.
She's like this petite, beautiful Japanese woman who is gorgeous, and she's so pristine and so impeccable. And she goes into people's homes and tidies up, and she has one super simple system. First of all, bedroom, all the clothes onto the bed, and then pick up each piece. Does it bring you joy? If not, it goes in that pile. If it does bring you joy, it gets to stay. And you go through every piece, then you fold it kind of like an origami. This whole process of loving all of our things we have. She's basically, in my mind, she is like an ancient, super high level feng shui master tidying up the world. Huge destiny. And it just looks like a show on Netflix of this cute woman doing this. So that's how destiny looks. You don't know how it's going to manifest, but her destiny is to literally feng shui the world and how people live. And she comes into a space and she gets on her hands and knees and she asks the spirit of the house to come into it. And so she's very national TV, bringing in super high level tools. And so that's one example. Lady Gaga, is her destiny spiritual? No, but you know what she is? Her destiny is to show people what is possible. She is a boundary breaker, and she has like the voice of 9 angels within her voice. So her codes and her voice are super seraphim level, high level. She's actually a sound healer on the greatest scale that humanity can all heal. There's no one that can't respond to her voice, her song. When she unleashes in that A Star Is Born, her voice, it's like an unleashing of an entire asylum of angels, and you get chills because her destiny is not spiritual yet. She's doing spiritual acts, and that's what I love about destiny work. Finding your one sentence, having that channeled for you, that one giant thing that you're here to do. Isn't it beautiful? I really love this.
Yes, it really is.
And I have these people that I work with, like, for example, people that are Reiki healers, they're doing energy work, they do remote sessions. There's kind of this mid-range of healer out there, and they're kind of all invisible because they're all using the same words, they're all using the same things, and they have to find a way that sets them apart. And that's the dialing in that's missing. That's like their super ninja skill has not been pulled out because everyone has one ninja skill like that. There was a
Right.
woman I had she was actually a facialist, and I was getting a facial from her, and she got fired. And because she did something else, and she was recommending her own products because she was making her own products, and her boss found out. I'm like, oh my God, this is the perfect time for you to start your own line. You're destined to be your own name. And so I started working with her, and she's now the international spokesperson for Whole Foods Skincare. She has a huge line of products. She sold one of her businesses for millions of dollars. She is following her destiny to bring skincare to everyone. That's a really simple destiny. Somebody else I'm working with is like going to become the female David Wolf, all into nutrition and health. Like David Wolf is a template of half educator, half product innovator. He brings those worlds together. He's educated the world about so much. He's brilliant. And, there's no females really in that space so much. So this woman, she's from Sedona, and she found me, and we've already got a name for her, and she is just exploding onto the scene, half educator. Wow. And I love that. That's like a new kind of job where people are educational and have a product. It's really powerful. And I also have another woman. This is another way it's not spiritual. She's a fitness model, and she wants to compete in high level competitions. She's beautiful, but her personal journey has been so incredible. She's overcome addiction. She's overcome so much, and she's done it through one process. So her whole brand is the champion of self-love. And she is showing people how to get fit, how to overcome what is possible, and to show that to the world. So everyone has something, and this lights me up to talk about because it's just powerful. It's really powerful. And I wish everyone has this as part of their DNA package. I want everyone to have the whole package, the precision embodiment with the last piece of the iconic branding. And that's when you're fully stepping into your power and making a difference.
I love that. Yeah.
And there's an added bonus. You get to step into your wealth codes with it as well. So,
which comes as a byproduct, right, of being in alignment.
That's when it is in alignment. Everything needs to be in alignment at that level. Like if you're doing all this stuff, but it's like nobody is paying you for anything. I mean, there are services that are but that's a whole different kind of arrangement and alignment. So there are those things, but if you're not able to live your life doing it, there needs to be some adjustment. You're not doing it wrong, but there has to be a more of a dialing in on that. For sure. So, can I tell you my story of synchronicity?
Twist my arm. Okay.
I was thinking, I have like 5 of them I wanted to tell you. One was the story. One was the story when I left Sedona, but that's more about me. This is something that helps everyone. So last weekend, I was going to a thing called the Gathering of the Gurus, and it's this really beautiful group led by Melissa Peterson, and it's a mastermind group. I'm in love with masterminds. I think everything should be a mastermind. Even when you're talking to your friend, it's like, okay, let's mastermind our conversation. You go for 10, I'll reflect. You go for 10, I'll reflect. It's just a beautiful format of interaction.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we're doing here on your podcast. So anyway, I was flying to Florida. And go back in the story to a couple months ago. I was in Sedona, sitting in my living room, booking a flight to Florida. And I had this credit through Delta. So it was one of those calls with American Express that was endless. And I was literally on there for 2 hours. And my partner who was walking through, he's like, wow, Giselle, you're like a Zen master today. You've been on that phone for 2 hours and you've been so nice and kind. What's going on? I said, well, I was actually doing all these other things while I was on the phone. So that's why I wasn't just sitting there doing that. I was getting all my other to-do lists done. But then after 2 hours, I was like, okay, I'm done. I was like ready to go. I finished all my completion. I said, okay, I'm ready to go. She goes, oh my God, this is the American Express person. She goes, I have to start over. I forgot. I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah. I said, okay, well, listen, I can't stay on the call. I just need you to get it done and send me the confirmation. I've been really patient and, that's all the time I have. So I'm going to trust you to just send me the confirmation. She goes, well, you kind of need to stay on the call. I went, no, I can't. She goes, okay, I'll send it. So I did get a confirmation from Amex. And then, okay, fast forward to last weekend. It's time to go. I go to check into the flight and it says, see an agent. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I go, I'm all packed. I go to the airport. 5 o'clock traffic. I get there and I say, here's my confirmation number. And they go, we don't have you booked on this flight. And I'm like, what? And I was like, seriously? And they said, yeah, you never confirmed it. So the woman with Amex did not confirm. And I'm like, okay, this makes sense now. Wow, wasn't expecting that. So the only flight left was a first class ticket for $1,000 to get there. I mean, you talk about a choice point. Okay, like I'm going, okay, what is my highest? It's like, what is my highest timeline choice at this moment? And I literally just sat there for a minute. I went, okay, let's dial it in. I'm like, $1,000, that's ridiculous. Then I thought about 2 weeks ago when I was having a daydream about wanting to up-level everything in my life. It's like, I always like just kind of shun the airline flight and the hotel. Like, I don't really want to pay for that. Like, I'll just get the cheapest place and the cheapest flight. And then I suffer through that experience. I deregulate my DNA through that. Just by going through the experience, I just suffer through. Like, how many horrible flights have we bought that are so cheap? How many horrible hotels? Okay, that's changing with Airbnb. But anyway, I said, you know what? I want to be like, I'm just going to change that. I'm going to make every part of my experience desirable, fun, and enjoyable. So I kind of had that thought. I really put that GPS in my field. So here I was, forced to buy a first class ticket to go against everything about buying cheap tickets. It sounds like a really simple story. But actually what it was like an activation of my wealth codes.
I love that.
So in that moment, I said, I'll take the ticket. I took the ticket. I was like, holy cow, here we go. And then just like closed my eyes. So here's the card. And then went on the trip. Fabulous trip, mastermind with other epigenetic coaches that are just making a huge difference in the world, like the brightest individuals I've ever met. And was there, loved it, and then realized that was the highest choice. And then on the way back, the only thing available was a first class again. And it had a 5-hour layover in Charlotte. And I'm like, okay, that's bad. Anyway, I just said, okay, I'm going to go with the first class ticket because it's kind of been working. I ended up finding a place in the Admirals Club. This is stuff I don't normally do, just FYI.
Right.
And I end up having the greatest breakthrough brainstorm in my life, sitting there and working on a computer in this beautiful Admirals Club, just feeling so taken care of and so luxurious.
Sure.
And it was like, I didn't want the day to end. It was normally what would have been a 9-hour. It was a 2-hour flight. It took me 10 hours to get home and I enjoyed every minute. So wealth codes activate. And that's how DNA works. It's this constant exchanging. If it's our antenna of what's around us, let's be conscious in every moment. And I just realized how simple it works. And I love that story. I do too. I'm not happy about paying that money, but you know what? At that point, it just becomes digits on a screen. Well, I've saved enough money on cheap flights.
Once you understand, and this is the big one, and it took me a long time, and, I'm someone who's went from, my child, my son is 20, and he has memories of us scrounging for quarters to buy tacos at Taco Bell, and he has memories of, living in our house that, $3 million mansion overlooking, in Laguna Beach, overlooking the ocean with an unobstructed ocean view. And so he's seen firsthand his experience of me getting my sea legs with this whole abundance thing, in radical extremes of creating abundance. And here's what I've come to, Giselle, is once you start understanding that the universe reacts to the message that you're sending, right? When you're saying, I am worthy of first class, I can afford this. And in the universe, higher self, God, source, whatever you want to call it, says, abracadabra. As you speak, you create. As you act, we reflect back to you. So this is the way, this is the path for those of you who are locked into, less abundance than you want. You're going to find opportunities to behave abundantly. It doesn't doesn't mean go take every penny you got and, put it on black on the roulette table and just, be stupid. But what it does is what I'm asking and challenging you to do is to really be as observant as Giselle was in this moment. Hold on. This is an opportunity, not a curse, for me to embody this new version of myself. And what happens, and I found through being, the guy scrounging for Taco Bell money to the guy, living the lap of luxury and everything in between, is when I behave abundantly, I see more abundance. And when I am the miser, which I've definitely done plenty of, turning a penny into, copper wire at times,
as we all have, yes.
And that is, I'm creating more of that experience, and it's, optimistic. We've talked about it. It's come up a lot here because it is so prevalent in my life at this moment. But for me, that's another great example. Not only for me, but for the listeners who are coming into the retreats. For me, it's about a $750,000 roughly expense over the course of a year. Yeah, exactly. Whoa. And so you can say, and I leaped without knowing the net would appear. I still don't have all the I's dotted and T's crossed. And there is so much that goes into doing this, but I have trust and faith that by doing it, it doesn't cost me $750,000. It makes me more abundance. It's going to create, it actually creates ultimately, let's say it does manifest as this, hugely successful show. What's the ripple of impact of that, or the ROI?
Okay, what's the ripple of impact when that goes on Netflix? Tell me that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What's the ROI now, the return on investment or the ripple of impact? Well, it didn't cost me anything. It made my life more abundant, my experiences more abundant, my bank account more abundant, ultimately. And so that's the same thing that I've really challenged those, I don't know if you know this or not, but one of the ways I am funding the expense and the huge expense. Venice is one of the most pricey places on the planet to live. And the Mystic Manor, this 6,000 square foot house. One of the ways that I'm funding it is by having retreats. So listeners are coming and staying for a full week, and we're giving them, there's meals are prepared, healthy meals and workshops and energy work, and they get to be on a live taping of the show. And I've had lots of conversations with people, as people have wanted to sign up. And that's part of the conversation is like, look, for a lot of people, it's a stretch to pay, to come and spend a week. And what I say to them is like, look, obviously if it's going to disrupt your family life, don't do it. But if it's, if this is a stretch in a good way, like it is for me, where there's some faith and knowing like I'm energetically tying myself to this thing that's going to create all kinds of goodness in the world, and it's giving me this once in a lifetime, one of a kind experience, then stretch yourself, because it's going to ultimately, the universe just responds to you and says, oh, you're worthy of this. You deserve this kind of experience. Next thing you know, money comes out of nowhere you didn't plan on even getting to help pay for it. And this is how we create more abundance. And so it's been a fascinating journey for me to have, and to, like I said, there's 111 spots over the course of July 2019 to July 2020. About 40 some of them are filled up currently. So there's still spots, by the way, for those of you who might be interested in coming. You can go to optimistic.tv and see all the details, and email me, Brandon@positivehead.com, if you want to talk about it. But it's been a fascinating journey, Giselle, to see as people sort of stretch themselves to make it happen.
100%.
And of course, and it's just like what you're talking about.
Totally. And also on the other side of mine, doing that, I came back from the weekend, and Melissa Peterson, one of the facilitators, she and I are going to collaborate on something that could be potentially really huge. So there's always this thing waiting for you when you just choose that. Right. What is our main theme of this whole podcast? Choose the highest timeline in every moment. Yep. Yeah.
And know how worthy you are.
Yes.
Isn't it good?
So I want to take a moment right now and offer something. First of all, I'd like to share with my tribe, all about your retreat. So send me that. I would like to do that. And number two, what I want to share with this tribe, I've already mentioned the book, Codes of Immortality. Text the word immortality to 31996. Also, I offer free discovery calls, and that's where we say, hey, Do you have your one sentence? Do you know your highest soul fulfilling destiny? So I do a discovery call. I call it strategy call. I'm offering those
Cool.
for everyone, anyone interested. And then I also have 2 programs I do. I'm doing 2 things. My first program is iconic branding. We dial that in. It's a 3-month program. I'm offering 10% off. And it's not a whole series of videos that you watched endlessly. It's me working with you. We just laser in. I have the formula. We get to it. You leave with your soul fulfilling destiny implanted with action steps, how to go, etc. And my other one is the precision embodiment. That's my bigger ticket program. It includes the iconic branding, but also it's all the measurables. We do the genetic testing and we dial in your highest genetic expression through lifestyle. We look at wearables, we work with your sleep, how you eat. We get a 45-page report on what is your ideal diet, beyond what blood work can tell you, what is your ideal way of sleeping, and what are your ideal supplements. So these are all really step-by-step actions to get to your most powerful role as a light worker with financial success behind it.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And for people who are interested in learning more about that or signing up for the call, what's the best place for them to go?
They can go to my website, gisellekoy.com. And under the programs bars, iconic branding and precision embodiment programs are on there. And there's a sign up to do the calls.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that's gracious of you to offer a discount to people who maybe feel the call to connect with you on that. And very, very cool. This has been absolutely amazing, Giselle. I'm so glad that we got the chance to circle back around here. And, as
incredible. I'm so excited for you, Brandon.
Oh, I'm so excited for you too.
All of us. We're all doing it.
Yes, we're all doing it. We're all just reflections of each other. So anything that I'm doing, is a reflection of your potential, anyone's listening potential, vice versa. What you're doing is a reflection of their potential, my potential. It's like we're all just mirroring each other back. And so I think that's a really important thing to get, instead of like comparison in a negative way that people can tend to do. I always say if I see something that I really admire in someone, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm so glad that's in my field right now. That's a reflection. It's so close that, to me, vibrationally, out of all the things that could be in my field in this moment, that I'm actually perceiving, this is it, because it's such a close vibrational match to me and where I'm at. And so I think that is a very empowering way to start looking at, all the things that you admire.
Yes. So thank you so much for having me on. I look forward to anybody that wants to call so I can help you step into your soul fulfilling destiny and dial your precision embodiment in. Would love to help. Let me know if you want a free call. Just call the number or schedule it on my website. And Brandon, I'm going to see you in Venice. I'm going to come and spend some time with Sandra while she's there.
Oh, I would love that.
I'll see you there. Yeah. So lots of love to you. Lots of love to the listeners. And thank you.
Thank you so much. I do have one final question. I'm sure I asked it to you before, and I'm going to ask it again. I like to end with this. In 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life according to Giselle Koy?
To fully turn on your 12-strand DNA, to enjoy the embodiment experience of living in the sensual dimension known as planet Earth at this time of civilization.
Love it.
How about that?
Giselle, I look forward to seeing it. I love it. And I so look forward to spending more time in 3D or 5D, wherever we are at this time. Yes. I so look forward to spending time with you at the Mystic Manor when you come. Yes. And that's going to be super, super cool. Until then, journey well, my friend.
You too, Brandon. Thank you.
Well, everyone, that concludes this week's interview episode. Before we sign off, I wanted to let you all know that we have finally created the Game with the Universe on our website, where you can choose the first number that comes to your mind, and it'll pull up that episode number of the podcast. I've been saying this is a great way to co-create synchronicity and magic with your higher self for quite some time by doing this manually. But now, if you go to positivehead.com/YO universe, there is a super fun and simple interface to play this game with your higher self. I firmly believe just by setting the intention to play in this way, it opens up the door for magic, and it's a synchronistic way to hone in on nuggets of wisdom out of the huge catalog of episodes that are specifically appropriate for you at this time in your journey to becoming the next greatest and grandest version of yourself. And it also makes for a super fun way to engage and invite friends, family, people on social media to check out the podcast as well. So be sure to check out positivehead.com/YOUNIVERSE and be sure to tell all your friends so they can play a game with the universe, which also helps the show to reach new people, which I greatly appreciate. And as a quick reminder, be sure to also check out positivehead.com/transformation if you're curious to learn more about Purium superfoods and why I take them every day. On this journey of becoming the next greatest and grandest version of ourselves that we have all embarked upon, I can't stress the importance of managing your physical vibration enough. And quite honestly, Purium has put together the simplest plan I've found to do so, and I'm sincerely excited to share it with all of you. Otherwise, as you continue on your fabulous journey in this 3D reality, be sure to remember this. As long as you ain't dead, you're already positive ahead. Journey well, everyone, and thank you for being.